Two political candidates were outside campaigning and it began to rain. So one of them ran to a shelter. And the other one stayed outside, shaking hands, kissing babies. And one gentleman said to another, "Boy, it sure makes it easy to know who to vote for, doesn't it?" And the guy next to him says, "Absolutely. Why would I vote for anyone who doesn't have the smarts to get out of the rain?" When we're talking about persistence in sales, we want to focus on appropriate persistence. I'm sure everyone out there has been pursued by a salesperson that was not appropriately persistent. They became a pest. What we're going to focus on today is how to be persistent without being a pest. This is going to help you build your marketing plan, and it's part 1 of 2 in the series. Remember that nothing happens until somebody sells something. That's why sales is the greatest profession, because it's what makes everything go round. So let's set your RAS today. What is it that you are really looking to accomplish? Remember, RAS is your reticular activating system. It's that internal GPS in your mind that when your mind is seeking something, it will find it. So if you're looking for solutions and ways to continue marketing and getting to the right people, that's the key, getting to the right people. Let's find a way to do it. And to make sure that you get the most out of your time today, take really good notes. If you don't, you only retain about 10%, if you're lucky, of what we talk about. Look for new ideas. Now, there are 3 phases that you go through when you're looking at new ideas. And the first one is, "Oh, Tiffany, can't be done." Then the next one you think, "Well, maybe it could, but is it worth it? Because, well, I've never done it, or I've done it before and it hasn't worked." I love that one because there's usually a little twist on it that I'm challenging you to try. So you might think, "Well, maybe I can do it, but is it not worth it?" Then finally, you're going to come to the part when you say, "Yes, I can do it." The number one thing that salespeople can do if you're not happy with where you are, it's change your trajectory. It takes just one little incy-bincy degree of change to really change where you're going. And eliminate the I knows. Nothing will stop your learning more than in your mind simply saying, "I know, I know." Take it out of your vocabulary. And you don't need to be perfect. When we're talking about a marketing plan, we're not looking for perfection. I do want you to try your absolute best. Focus on completion. That's where people fall short in their marketing plan. They get started, they come out of the gate, they're gung-ho, they're the first horse out of the gate, and then you know what though? They lose steam around the second and the third bend. So we want to make sure that you're in this for a marathon. It's not a sprint. It is a marathon. Let's build the stamina. Let's get the plan behind you so you can stay focused to complete it. And the word impossible. Sometimes these marketing plans feel impossible. With a little bit of shifting of the words and putting in a space and an apostrophe, all of a sudden it says, "I'm possible." So we're focusing on what we can do. What are those solutions to get to the decision makers? Successful people have 3 must-have qualities. They are desire, design, and discipline. Desire, why do you want to do it? Is it enough to keep you driving? Design, what is your plan? That's what we're going to focus on here. And then discipline, to continue to execute the plan and stay focused. All of our coaching is going to revolve around these 3 qualities. We can go in different places here. We can blame the environment. We can blame prospects for not calling us back. We can come up with excuses. "Well, I couldn't get it done," or "I didn't have time." Denial, love it. Didn't know about it. Find out. Not knowing is not an excuse. Those people are always going to be victims who use blame, excuse, and denial. When we can go above the line and use ownership, accountability, responsibility, that's where we're going to win. Jack Canfield tells us that the best way to improve your life is to take 100% responsibility for it. If something's going on that you don't like, find another response and another way around it. And of course, we're always going to be looking for those BFOs, the blinding flashes of the obvious, those, oh my gosh moments. How could I not have thought of this before? Or, you know what? I used to do it and it worked really well. And then I stopped doing it. And I don't know why. I just got out of the habit. Look for those BFOs. The more you have, the more you are learning. So if you take one thing from what we talk about today, make it this: follow up or fail. Follow up or fail. As sales professionals, it is our responsibility to find a way to follow up with people. It's amazing the amount of people who tell me that a prospect said, well, they're going to call me back when they're ready. Really? 1,000 people were at a sales professional conference and they asked, when do you give up? How often are you following up with people? And when do you finally throw in the towel and say, you know what? I'm not pursuing that prospect anymore. So the options were 3 to 4 attempts, don't have a fixed number, never, not until I hear no, or 5 attempts. Where do you fall? Go ahead and rate yourself right now. When do you give up? Be honest, nobody else is going to see it. It's only going to help you though if you're really genuine as we go through this exercise. So 10% said they give up after 3 to 4 attempts. 36% don't have a fixed number. That's where I would likely fall in. 12% never. Those are the people who drive you crazy though, right? Not until I hear no, 28%. And after 5 attempts, 14%. So what this really is telling us that when business is good, there's probably not good follow-up, right? Because you're too busy. And when business is bad, there's a lot of follow-up on people who may or may not really be the right people to be following up on. Let's put a little more science behind it and help you with your mindset when it comes to following up. So if that's when people give up, let's compare it to when sales are actually made. And this is according to InsideSales.com. What percentage do you think sales are made after the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth attempt? Some people will push back on this question and ask me, well, Tiffany, does this mean that you've ever talked to them, or this is completely just cold calling, you're trying to get with them? And the answer is, I'm not sure. But the spirit of this does mean that we need to have a lot of follow through and follow up with somebody. You know, advertisers will talk about imprints, right? How often does somebody need to see your logo before it means anything to them? So this is a little bit different because it's what I call micro marketing. You're not doing mass marketing with advertisements and articles in the paper or advertisements in the paper, but we are looking at specific ways to get in front of decision makers. 80%, whatever those other numbers are small potatoes. 80% of sales are made after the 5th attempt. So the point here is that we should have a set number before we give up. Otherwise, we're giving up too soon. And what is the science behind our follow-up? If we're leaving the same message over and over, honestly, I don't even know if I would count that as an attempt. If your follow-up is only checking in, wanted to see if you took a look at your proposal that I sent over last week, I don't really even feel like that's follow-up. Let's get a little bit more methodical in how we follow up. So when do sales professionals give up? According to InsideSales.com, 46% give up after the first attempt, 22% after the second, 14% after the third. That means 82% of people don't even get to a 4th try because they see it as rejection. Remember, somebody's not rejecting you, they're rejecting your offer. So how good or how weak is the offer that you are proposing them? You've got 2 things going on when we take a look at your marketing plan. We've got message and medium. So your message is what you're saying and what your offer is, and your medium is how you are delivering it. So these are the 3 most common ways, right? Email, phone, in the ambush meeting. I love this, to drop in. Oh, I just happened to be in the neighborhood. I wanted to stop in. And things have changed a lot from what it was 10 years ago. Now, I'm not saying if in your industry the drop-in is still working, absolutely keep doing it. And in many industries it is. It doesn't mean, though, that there aren't some other things we can start to try in order to be more systematic in how we are prospecting. So these are your typical ways of connecting with a prospect. We're going to go through 5 different points here today in building your marketing plan. Number 1, if you want to be different, this is such common sense, but how many of us do it? Be different. You've got to find a way to stand out from the crowd. How about sending certified mail? Some type of unusual item, postcard, lumpy mail, FedEx courier, giving them news you can use, or a handwritten note. These are just a few ideas of ways that you can really be different than just the typical email, phone, or drop-in. So if we want to be different, how do we do it? There's probably a couple objections that you hear frequently, or you just haven't been able to find a way around. I know 2 that I used to hear often when I first started my business. One, you don't have enough experience. And the other one was that you don't know my industry. I'm really fortunate to work with a blend of different organizations that really are on the spectrum as to what they do in business. Well, it was a referral, and I met with 2 gentlemen. One, I connected with him immediately. The other person, I had a very hard time in the meeting connecting with him. It was a long meeting, 2 hours long. Every question I asked, he had a roundabout answer to it. And when I tried to clarify it, and I'd say, let me see if I'm hearing you correctly, I'd summarize what he'd said. He'd say, no, that's not what I said. And either he was saying something different or I wasn't listening. Regardless, it was not one of my best meetings. But what he kept saying in there was, do you have the secret sauce? Do you have the secret sauce? Are you going to be able to come in and work with my guys and help them be successful? You don't know commercial real estate. And I walked out of there and I knew that I had not done a good job of being able to demonstrate what I could do. But I wasn't ready to give up and go a traditional route of following up simply with email and phone. So I came home and I pulled out of my cupboard a bottle of Tabasco. And I started customizing secret sauce for this gentleman. And all the things that I wish I had said during the meeting, hasn't that happened to you? When you leave, you think of all the great things. I put it into a Tabasco sauce, put it in a nice wine bottle bag, customized a label, and I'm going to show you the different areas of it, and shared what I wished I had said. So the secret sauce myth, because he kept talking about this. Does it exist? Is there one way to make people successful? Well, we've searched industries and professions across the country in search of it. And what did we find? That the secret sauce is a process. It can't be done quickly. It needs time and attention to produce the best outcome. Results are guaranteed when the combination of the best ingredients are used with the right mindset. Bottom line, the secret is the relationship among the best ingredients. At the Timmons Group, we artfully follow a proven process to craft a one-of-a-kind sales system for your team that is unique to your industry and team. So I took their logo, put it on the jar. On the other side, I focused on ingredients. And these are the 3 pieces to all of my training: human behavioral modeling, scripting and preparedness, and a sports center approach to statistics, evaluation, game planning, and mindset. On the other side, I put on a UPC symbol, benefits of the sauce, a well-prepared sales team for today's environment who can produce results. So if you want to be different, you've got to find a way to be different in a really good way. Now, I also took that jar in the wine bag and had it couriered over that day. Long story short, I have been doing training with that company, and every time I see him, he says, secret sauce. He showed it to all the guys in the office? What can you do to stand out? Again, in a good way. So we want to write your plan and then work your plan. Whenever we're doing any type of marketing, we've got to know who. Who is it we're calling? Some of you may have a database already done. Others will have to go out and create that list. What is your offer? And how are you going to communicate it to them? Let me give you some really concrete examples. Here's my marketing plan. After I know my who, what I usually end up doing, since I don't have a database, is I go out to Access USA and I will find service companies that have the right amount of employees. They have a sales team that I want to pursue. Then I'll send out an email, and I'll show you what that email is, with an intro, a value proposition, and propose an appointment. If you're looking at this saying, well, I don't know how to do my value props, that's going to be in the next module, but you probably have a good idea of where to get started. Then my next step is I'll have couriered over a book. It's a leader's journey, the accountability story. And that's actually a book that I've written. Then my next one is a phone call. I leave them an interesting stat and a quick let's talk voicemail. Then I send a note with some news you can use. My next step is to courier over again a book, or I can have that in the mail. An email, value prop, propose appointment, then a handwritten note or card. Don't you wish your team was this persistent? And finally, an email wishing you the best. You aren't interested in hearing how we can help you. The mindset of this, though, is that I'm going to reach out and contact them 8 times without even expecting a response. If I hear a response from them, they raise their hand and say they're interested, fantastic. Let's get that meeting set. If not, I'm going to stay appropriately persistent. But every touch that I have with them is different and bringing something of value to the table. Part 2 of the marketing plan modules is going to focus completely on that step 2 of building that marketing plan and getting your value props, what to say, how to say it, when to say it. Number 3, how to be persistent without being a pest. Kick your hopium habit. You've heard me say it. Hope is not a strategy. I will talk to salespeople and they'll say, well, I hope that they call me back, or I hope we're going to meet again next week. You know what? Go with the takeaway. Here's how it works. Instead of saying, can we schedule a follow-up? How about we schedule a follow-up? Take the opposite side of it and say in a very nice tone, you know, I sense that scheduling a follow-up is still premature. What are your thoughts? You will get to the root of what they are really thinking because you're taking the pressure off them. Instead of, are we still on track to get this agreement signed? I've done that. I've emailed that to people because they told me they were going to send it to me. Flip it around. Well, it looks like we're not going to get this agreement signed this month. Another one, is this a good time to talk? If you catch them off guard, is this a bad time to talk? I call these the takeaways. You're going on the opposite side of just hoping that they can talk to you right now and hoping that agreement gets signed. Let's call a spade, find out what we're dealing with, and then we can find the real solution. Know when to say goodbye. If you have been chasing someone and you've met with them and you've met with all the decision makers and you have honestly done your best follow-up and follow through, then maybe it is okay to say goodbye. Haven't heard back from you. I'm assuming your interest might be slipping, but I wanted to demonstrate my persistence without becoming a pest. Here's a quick recap of what I'm trying to connect with you. Clear, compelling message there. You've got to be able to really customize it to them. Please hit reply and select one of the numbers. 1, thanks anyways. There's no interest in moving forward ever. 2, glad you're touching base. Please call me to discuss. 3, timing isn't right. Please call me in a few months. Now remember, this is after you've done absolutely everything you can to try to follow up with them. And you are completely at a loss of what to do next. What's interesting is I find when we do this, you're going to have a 2 or a 3 usually as the response. Rarely do people say they have no interest in moving forward, ever. So it's another way to get them back engaged. Number 5, I learned this one from Jeffrey Gitomer at a sales conference. This hopeful woman came up to the microphone to ask a question, and she was so hungry to hear the best way to follow up with a prospect that she could not get a response from. And you know what he said? There's always someone else to call. Because the reality is, at any given time, 15% of the population will say they're perfectly fine. Right? They would never want to look at a new solution because they're completely happy. 25% are actively looking. When you're only talking to that 25%, though, they're talking to competitors. They're the ones who are shopping. They're the ones who are researching. Doesn't mean you can't sell there. You certainly can. You're just going to have more competition. However, 60% of people will say they're not looking, but they would be open to new ideas. What ideas are you bringing them? Are you saying the same thing they've heard before? Are you leaving the same message that goes on and on, talking about you and your company and what you'd like to do and how you'd like to talk to them? Or are you truly bringing a new concept that can help them? So if you are serious about having the best sales career ever, what will you start doing immediately to make that happen? Remember, sales success is all about discipline, staying focused, doing the right things every day. That's what that marketing plan is about. When you have massive activity, you will see massive results. Design. Well, what does that plan look like? And the desire. Is it in your heart? Do you have that fire in the belly to make things happen? Check yourself on all 3 of these. And let's go on to part 2 when you're ready and get that marketing plan written out so you are ready to execute.